What's up YouTube, this is SpiceX79 guys. Today I'm coming to you with my latest deck profile video for June 2020. And today guys, we'll be looking at my updated Salamangreat deck. Eternity Code was just amazing for the Salamangreat deck. We got a brand new Cyberse monster that can help the deck extend into rank 4 plays a whole lot easier. And we have a brand new monster for the extra deck, which basically became the boss monster for the deck and its win condition. So now the Salamangreat deck actually has that OTK factor, and it's a lot easier to get out. With that being said, this deck can play first, it can play second, it has all the great things the Salamangreats can do. So we're just going to dive right into this now. Starting off with the monsters, of course, one copy of Salamangreat Gazelle. Gazelle is the heart and soul of the main deck. Getting this card into your hand is just important, so you want to be utilizing your searches to get this card into your hand ASAP. Plenty of ways to get it into your hand, whether it be direct searches through Silent Mining or Lady Debug, or possibly kind of a rolling a dice situation with Foxy, but still, there are a lot of different ways to actually get to this card, and getting to this card is very important because whenever this card is summoned to the field, you're sending any Salamangreat card from your deck to your graveyard to basically further your plays, whether you're trying to set up a back row because you're going first, or just trying to set up more extenders to help build your board, possibly going for an OTK. So definitely you want to be getting this card out of your deck as soon as possible. As mentioned, we have Foxy in this deck, 3 copies of Foxy to be exact. On normal summon, you get a Pot of Duality style of effect. Get to see the top 3 cards of your deck. You get to pick one Salamangreat card from those 3 cards, add it to your hand, the rest are shuffled back in your deck. Awesome. Foxy also has the ability to pop back row while it's in the graveyard. You can target a face-up spell trap your opponent controls, bounce a card off your field, and special summon this card onto the field to pop the back row. So that's actually pretty awesome. And it does come in handy at times. 2 copies of Spinny. Spinny has that hand trap effect, which power boost any Salamangreat monster up by 5 as your attack. Typically, if it's in your opening hand, you summon out another Salamangreat monster, you send this card to the graveyard to power boost that Salamangreat monster, and then you can special summon Gazelle from your hand if it's there. So that's pretty much how you can get some of the play started. Spinny also can recur itself from the graveyard to help extend your plays. Just be careful, it does banish itself when it leaves the field after you do that. So always save that effect for last if you absolutely need it. Speaking of extenders, we have 2 copies of Jaguar. Jaguar is a level 4 monster, 1800 attack. It has piercing damage. A lot of people forget that it can do piercing damage. Just keep putting that out there to remind people. But its main key thing is that it's an extender. Allows you to bounce a Salamangreat monster from your graveyard back into your deck to special summon itself to a zone a Salamangreat monster points to. It is an awesome extender. We run 2 because Called by the Grave is a thing, as well as DD Chrome. 1 copy of Salamangreat Falco. Falco, its primarily function is to be sent to the graveyard to recycle your Salamangreat spells and traps. Very awesome card. Helps get your toolbox materials to keep building your field or set up a pretty nasty board. Moving forward, we have 3 copies of Lady Debug. On summon, whether it be normal or special, you get to search your deck for any level 4 or lower Cyberse monster. Typically, it's going to be Gazelle because it's at 1, you're not going to see it as often. So definitely you want to be using your searches to get Gazelle out. This is one of the ways to get into it. And last but not least, we got, for the Cyberse monsters at least, we have 3 copies of Parallax Seas. Parallax Seas, whenever you link summon a monster, you can special summon one from your hand to the field. Its level becomes 4, and you can special summon out another Parallax Seed from your deck to the field. It also becomes level 4, and from there you can extend into other link plays or your rank 4 plays. Okay. Only bummer about this card is that it's a level 8, and since things like Lady Debug and Silent Mining can only search out level 4 or lower, you're going to have to hard draw into it. So just be thoughtful about that. Moving forward into hand traps, we got 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Natural fit for the Salamangreat deck because it is a fire tribute and it plays into Heat Leo's effect that can power down your opponent's monsters by fire type monster that's in the graveyard's attack. Ash Possum's got 0 attack. 2 copies of DD Crow. Again, very awesome in this particular meta we're playing in. Can remove problematic cards out of the graveyard before they become even more problematic, so definitely worth having. At least 2 copies in your main. 3 copies of Effect Valor. Hard. It's not a hard once per turn monster effect negation, so if you have multiples, you can use it multiples during the course of your opponent's turn, which is just awesome. So that's why we run 3. And last but not least, we got the Meteor from the sky, Nibiru. Blow up your opponent's field. Stop their plays cold. You get the idea. That's it for the monsters. For the spells, 1 copy of Salamangreat Circle. Salamangreat Circle is a quick play spell. You can utilize it for a search, whether it be during yours or your opponent's turn. You can also protect a face-up reincarnate link summoned Salamangreat monster from being destroyed by card effects, which is actually pretty awesome. I'm praying to God that we get this card back to at least 2 on the next ban list, primarily because if you look at the Salamangreat decks in both the TCG and OCG, they're pretty much in the same place and doing the same things. So the only difference is that Salamangreats in the OCG have 2 circles. We in the TCG don't, so it's pretty much safe to say this card can come down to 2, and it really won't push the deck over the top. So definitely worth running. 1 copy of Salamangreat Sanctuary. Again, another 1-of in this deck, but it is also 1-of allows you to reincarnate like summon your Salamangreat Link monsters without having to utilize other monsters on the field. You just use the Link monster itself to bring out another copy of itself, and from there you can activate the extra reincarnate Link effects. So very awesome. It also can bottom out the attack of a Salamangreat monster. You gain that monster's attack as life points, but the monster can't be destroyed. So pretty interesting way of protecting the monster. Don't forget that you can actually do that in crunch time. So 2 copies of Will of the Salamangreat. It's basically the NR type monster reborn / soul charge for the deck. Bring monsters back. 3 copies of Silent Mining. Any Cyberse deck worth of salt should be running this card at least at 3. So search out any level 4 or lower Cyberse monsters. And then last but not least, I'm running 2 copies of Pot of Desires. I know I've seen a lot of builds running 3. I have severe issues with running 3 because every single time I play a deck with 3 Desires in it, I always wind up drawing that 3rd copy. And to be very honest, there are just a lot of 1-ofs in this deck that if you banish, it's going to give you problems. And I just rather try to mitigate that by just running 2 copies. And I think 2 copies is more than enough. You'll be able to see what you need to see. Did not eject enough to be able to draw into your other pieces. So it's definitely worth running at 2. I wouldn't push it to 3. If you want to try 3, go right ahead. My thing is 2's fine. For the traps, 2 copies of Rage. Rage is normal effect. You pitch a card, Salamangreat card from your hand to the graveyard, you pop a card. Or if you control a Salamangreat monster that was Link monster that was reincarnate Link summon, you can actually pop cards up to the number of its Link rating. So 2 or 3 cards off your opponent's field. It's an amazing interruption card and definitely worth running. And of course we have 2 copies of Salamangreat Roar. I like Roar in this deck at 2. I've always liked it at 2, primarily because it can get itself back onto the field via its own effect whenever you reincarnate Link summon, which is actually very awesome. Negates monster spells and traps, so definitely worth having. Moving on, for the last trap and the last card in this deck is going to be 3 copies of Infinite Permanence. Again, this is not a hard once per turn. You can negate monster effects. If you set it on the field, any cards in the same column as it are going to be negated as well. So definitely a worthwhile card. And shutting down back row cards could be actually very beneficial to you, because then you're actually able to stun your opponent even better. So that's it for the main deck, 40 cards. On to the extra deck. 3 copies of Salamangreat Balinks. on summon, searches out your sanctuary, so you can reincarnate Link Summon, and it has that continuous effect while in the graveyard. If your opponent tries to destroy your Salamangreat monsters by battle or card effect, you can just banish it, so very worthwhile. Alright, Gazelle's the heart and soul of the main deck. The heart and soul of the extra deck is going to be the Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. Sunlight Wolf is just amazing. Any monster special summon to a zone it points to gets you a Salamangreat monster from your graveyard back to your hand, so you're recurring your resources. If it's reincarnate Link Summon, on summon you get a Salamangreat spell or trap card back from your graveyard to your hand, which is just huge. Always worth it, and this is typically the card you want to be recycling off of something with Jaguar, just to be able to get your boards going. And then of course we have 2 copies of Heatleo. I like running both artworks primarily because I treat this one as the first one and this one as the reincarnate Link Summon. You don't have to do that, you just run whatever you want, but that's the way I do it. On summon, it can target spells and traps on your opponent's fields, bounce them off the field, which is actually pretty awesome. And then I mentioned this with Ash Blossom before. If you reincarnate Link Summon this card, you can target a fire attribute monster that's in your graveyard, and one of your monsters your opponent controls, and that monster your opponent controls attack becomes equal to the monster that was in your graveyard. So Ash Blossom would be the primary target. Balings would be probably the second target you want to do because of their low attacks. Also, it is a Link 3, and it can help build into the boss monster as well, so keep that in mind. Alright, I am running Nightmares in this deck, 1 Phoenix for back row hate, Nightmare Unicorn to spin cards back into the deck, so very useful toolbox cards. Also, Unicorn gives an additional attribute for the boss monster effect. And of course we got Update Jammer, Transcode Talker, and the big boss monster of the deck, Access Code Talker. Update Jammer typically is utilized for building into higher links. It gives the higher link the ability to attack twice per turn, which is actually pretty awesome. Transcode Talker can bring back a Link 2 or a Link 3 or lower monster from your graveyard to a zone it points to. Typically you could bring back Update Jammer and then build into Access Code Talker. Access Code Talker, what can I say, this is amazing Link 4. Your opponent can't respond to this card's effects activations with their own effects, which is just sick. And then it gains the attack of 1,000 times one of its materials' Link rating. So if you utilize either Transcode Talker or possibly even Unicorn or Heatleo, you could actually power boost that monster up to 5,300 attack, which is very awesome. On top of that, you also gain the ability to attack twice through Update Jammer's effect, and yeah, 5,300 attack with 2 attacks? That's pretty much game at that point. Not only that, but you can also banish Link monsters from your graveyard and start popping cards off the field. You can't banish 2 of the same attribute monsters in the same turn, but with the fact that you have Earth, Wind, Fire, and a Dark in the deck, you could potentially have up to 4 pops depending on how you play the game, or when you bring this card out. So definitely an amazing card to have in the extra deck. And the final 2 cards, we have 2 rank 4s for the Power League Seas Place, Abyss Dweller, and number 41, Babushka the Terribly Tired Tapir. Pretty much standard, but if you want to play around with the rank 4s, possibly try to get the Utopia package in there for another way to OTK, or possibly going for maybe other plays, like more back row hate with things like Tornado Dragon or board wipes with Evil Storm and Sectine Knight. Those are also awesome options. If you want to try to, say, potentially include maybe a recursion play for Access Code Talker, the Firewall Exceed Dragon is also an option for this deck. You can bring back Access Code Talker from your graveyard in case it gets popped. So there's a lot of different options you could play around with. I'm right now just running with these, but I am willing to test other options out. So these are kind of fluid right now. guys, that is it for my Salamangreat deck profile for June 2020. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this on my channel, make sure to subscribe. Enable notifications so you don't miss any uploads. Check out the description box below. Find the links to my affiliates, TCG Player and SideDeckVersus.com. Two great resources for any Yu-Gi-Oh player. Follow me on social media, Twitter and Reddit. And if you guys want to help build my community to greater heights, the link to my Discord server is also in the description box below. Join the conversation. We'll love to have you as always. Until next time, guys. Peace.